9 to 5 wouldn't allow me to really be a blessing to people that I wanted to be a blessing to. So I realized that I needed other streams of income. If I really wanted to be financially free, I knew that there was some other things that I needed to do. So really that has been my motivation because I want to be a blessing to others. My
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Wealth in Christ podcast, a show where we inspire the masses to become financially free while building God's kingdom. On the podcast today, we have Ms.Kemi Omotade. Ms.Kemi Omotade is a serial entrepreneur and a financial coach. In this podcast, we're going to discuss Ms. Kemi's journey as a mobile house investor. So thank you for being here, Ms.Kemi Omotade.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. What inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
That's actually a good question because I had no desire to be an entrepreneur, actually. If you give me a second just to recall, I think I was probably maybe like I had to be like in the fourth grade. And I remember, so my mom is big entrepreneurship. Like she sold everything from chin chin to hats to balloons to meat pie. Like, so she sold everything. And she always had us there working. And I remember one time I was in elementary school and she had bought these Italian ices and she bought dry ice and she pulled out our laundry basket and literally put the dry ice in the laundry basket, put the ices inside the laundry basket and like, here, Kemi, go to the park and go sell it. And I'm like, really? So I'm like, okay. So here I am pushing this shopping cart, this shopping cart to the park. And I remember vividly, I saw my friend's younger brother there. He was there with his friends. And they saw me like selling this icy and they started laughing at me. Oh, it was the worst experience ever. I immediately went back home. I said, Mommy, I'm never doing this ever again. Never. So I was so distraught. But funny enough, I had to cancel those vows that I denounce those vows that I created that I'll never sell anything or I'll never be an entrepreneur, because I realized that's something that I'm called to do. I really feel like I was inspired by my mom. Like I said, she had many businesses, and it fell into my lap because essentially it really wasn't something I wanted to do. Like it was just idea after idea back to back that just kept hit me, especially maybe about 2 to 3 years ago. Like right before the pandemic, different ideas just started to pop up and pop into my lap, and I took advantage of it. Honestly, it wasn't something that I ever thought. I was, some people grow up say, "Oh, I'm going to be a boss. I'm never going to work for anybody." That wasn't my confession at all. I mean, in fact, I was like, listen, I don't want to be a manager. Like, I don't want to have to manage people. I'm okay with my job. You don't have to elevate me, nothing, because I just had no desire. I wanted to be able to go and come as I please. But I mean, this is where the Lord has me, so I'm not complaining.
Wow. That's well said. And I definitely want to dive into that story because I feel like there's something that could be learned from it. Like most of the time when people get into entrepreneurship, they use like the black sheep. Whoever they start it may not be quote unquote the ideal thing. Why are you starting that business? Your business may not do that well. So how were you able to like get over that fear, that you experienced at a young age and now get back into it and have multiple businesses?
Easy. I mean, I'm a giver. I let anybody knows me. They know that I give. Have it straight off my back. I'll give it to you. And I knew that just my 9 to 5 wouldn't allow me to really be a blessing to people that I wanted to be a blessing to. So I realized that I needed other streams of income. If I really wanted to be financially free, I knew that there was some other things that I needed to do. So really that has been my motivation because I want to be a blessing to others. My passion is missions, so essentially I want to be able to be free from, working a 9 to 5 and travel and do missionary work because that's my passion. there was something else I was gonna say and I completely forgot. Um, I don't remember. But yeah, so that has been what has driven me. Yeah, I like to give. So I needed some other things to make sure that I'm capable of giving as I want to give.
Wow, that's well said. That's well said. So, how did you get started in the mobile house industry? How did you go about learning about it?
Yeah. So I got started in mobile home space. It was I guess the end of 2020. I'm in a Black Girls in Real Estate group on Facebook, and one of the featured guests, um, she went live about mobile home investing. That was her first mobile home, and she went through the process. She went through everything that she's done, and I was like, man, that sounds cool. And funny enough, prior to that, I had just like started my garden, and I was just listening to YouTube videos on just wholesaling homes and just trying to get into the housing space. But I didn't move forward with it. So then when I heard this video on mobile homes, I was like, well, you know what? This may be something that I can do. So literally that same lady, months later, I hired her as my mentor. And she trained me. And funny enough, she actually lives maybe about 30 minutes from me, even though the group is not a local group. So that worked out well. So I hired her, she mentored me, and that's pretty much how I got started.
Wow, 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 wow. Wow, that's great. I do want to go on, tie back a bit, real quick. You said that your mom introduced you to entrepreneurship. And I'm guessing now, she's seeing you in this entrepreneurship. How does she feel about you doing businesses and things of that sort?
So she just laughs. Because she know I'm a direct reflection of her. She knows the apple does not fall far from the tree. But she's also proud, every day, in fact, I just recently told her about, the master class that I'm doing. I'm just helping people with their finances. And she just laughed. She's like, Kemi, what is it that you're not doing? So, but she's proud. She definitely knows that I've gotten it from her because I mean, like I said, she's done it all: buttons, balloons, flowers. So, but yeah, she's definitely proud.
That's what I said. And what would you say is one lesson you can learn from your mom's journey that you have added, take to your journey?
One lesson I learned was to understand your numbers. Um, I think it's easy for people to get into business and not really understand their numbers. You can be selling something and not realize that you're really not making much of a profit. You
Hmm.
and realize that you're not really benefiting yourself. Your business is not functioning properly. So the thing I would say that I've learned is to make sure you understand your numbers. Make sure if you're buying something, at $100, selling it at $105 gives you barely any profit. In fact, it may hurt you because you have to spend gas to go get it. So just really understanding your numbers and not just buying something and just selling it without understanding, your profit and your loss.
Wow, that's well said. That is definitely well said. Um, and now to go back to the mobile house, and you're saying that you was looking in regards to wholesale and real estate. So what made mobile housing more interesting and more compared to the standard route of going by real estate?
Yeah, so mobile homes is, in my opinion, is so much better than traditional homes. One, because um, your return on investment is so much greater with a mobile home versus a standard home. I can easily get a home less than $5,000, put maybe $3,000 in it in terms of renovations and my handyman, and I could easily turn it around and make and sell it for $30,000.
Wow.
Within a matter of weeks. You can't do that with traditional homes. I mean, the repair cost is minimum for a mobile home versus a traditional house where a roof alone is probably $3,000, $4,000. So you're spending so much money on a traditional home, and you can be in that home renovating for what, 6 months to a year, 2 years even, versus a mobile home where you typically get in and you get out, and then your return on investment is extremely high. And then another thing is, doing mobile home, it gives me a sense of joy because I'm able to provide people affordable housing that may have never been able to afford a home. You know, my tenants can say, I own my home, and they may not have ever qualified for a traditional home. So there's some reward behind it where, I have it. I remember my home, I think it was my second home that I sold. Um, it was to a family that was actually living in a shelter, not in a shelter. They were living in a hotel where she was recently having issues with a abusive, spouse or whatever. So they were living in a hotel, and I remember I met up with her to, show her the house, and she was telling me that she was interested. This was right before Christmas. And I just remember, I remember vividly the daughter coming up to me, and she's like, she asked her mom first. She goes, "Mom, is this our house?" And she goes, "Yeah, baby, this is our house." And then
Wow.
she looked at me and she says, "Thank you, thank you, thank you so much." And she was like, "We get to have dinner together as a family again." And the mother just looked at me like, "Yeah, we just haven't been able to have dinner as a family in so long." Like I had to walk away because I almost teared up. Uh, so stories like stuff like that is really rewarding, and it gives me the opportunity to provide affordable living for people that may not ever be able to afford owning their own home. So that's why I do mobile home investing.
Wow, wow, wow. I never had anybody who broke it down like that. And you're 100% right on that. There's a housing shortage going on right now. People can't afford, standard houses and things of that sort. So yeah, it's definitely great that you're providing that kind of service. So that leads to my next question. How do you go about, finding these mobile houses? Like what's the first step to even get started?
So the first step in getting to finding a house is really there's several ways you can do it. You can drive around, like what we call, driving for dollars. So if you see a mobile home park, you'll typically drive in the park and see if anyone has a for sale sign up on their window. So that means that they're ready to move. So you have the opportunity to buy their home if they're selling it. So that's one. Another one is calling parks, asking them, "Hey, do you have any mobile homes for sale in your park?" They'll either say yes or no. That's another way. Another way is, putting up signs, saying, you're looking to buy a mobile home. Do you know if anyone has any mobile homes available? Talk to people, your coworkers, ask them, "Hey, look, I'm getting into mobile home investing. Do you know anyone that's selling their mobile home?" You can even give them a referral fee if they find you a home and you end up purchasing, you could give them a couple of $100. Say, "Hey, thank you." So that will actually encourage them to give you more homes because they just benefited from it. So those are a few ways that you can find it. There's some other things where you could pull lists and stuff like that, but that's like, deep into it. But those are a couple of ways where you can find mobile homes.
That's well said. And what would you say are some of the key members you need to have on your team to be successful in the mobile home space?
The key man, the I would say there's one thing that you need to have: a reliable handyman. Right? So, and I'll say this. So there's a difference between a handyman and a contractor. You don't want a
Mhm.
contractor because a contractor is going to charge you a ridiculous amount of price because they're used to working on standard homes. You
Mhm.
don't need a contractor. You can get a handyman, Joe from around the corner, as long as they're reliable. And that's the biggest issue in the mobile home space is reliable handymen. I mean, I've been through so many handymen. It's horrible. I mean, once I get a good one, I'm gonna hold on to them and value them because you know they're they're just not reliable. They'll come when they want to, they don't show up, they're late, you ask them to do this, they do something else. So I think the main thing is if you can find a reliable handyman, I mean, I think you're off to a great start. Or if you can do it yourself. I mean, it got to a point where I remember one of my homes, they were trying to charge me $75 just to change the light fixture out. And I had
Wow.
like 11 light fixtures in my home. I said, I have an electrical engineering degree. I am going to change it out myself. Okay. So I sure enough got a ladder and I changed them out myself. So if there's some things that you can do yourself, if you're handy, that's perfect. Or your spouse is handy, that's excellent. But I think the biggest thing is really finding someone that can do the work for you. And it is actually beneficial to have them go and look at a mobile home with you. If there's a home that you want to purchase, have them come with you. Say, listen, I want to get this home. Can you give me estimate on the repairs? There's certain things you have to look for when you're buying a home. Make sure that the floors are not weak. Make sure the roof, there aren't any leaks in the roof. Open up, check the faucets. So there's certain things that you look for when you're going to buy a mobile home. So having a handyman come with you and evaluate it, so that'll help you determine what price you're going to offer for the mobile home. They may ask for a ridiculous amount, maybe like $30,000, and it needs a lot of work. Well, you're not going to do that because you'll have your handyman there and he'll tell you, okay, well, it's going to cost maybe $5,000 to fix it up. So then you use that to negotiate, the pricing for the mobile home. But definitely your number one thing that you need to have is a good and reliable handyman.
Oh, that's well said. I guess, I have a couple of questions based on that. How would you, one, suggest people to go about, getting a handyman, and not get a contractor? Like you say, you want to keep your costs lower. And so how would you suggest people doing that?
Yeah, that's as simple as going on Facebook, Facebook Marketplace, putting up an ad on Facebook saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a handyman," or go into some of the groups, the classified, groups for your town. Just say, "Hey, I'm looking for a handyman. Does anyone work on mobile homes?" And trust me, you'll get a list of people, but just make sure you vet them out. Don't just jump with the first person that says, "Hey, I'm available." What I typically like to do is I'll ask them to have pictures of their work. It's good to ask if they have any referrals. Or another thing is I'll just have them all come out at one time. If I have a mobile home, I say, "Hey, listen, give me a quote on how much it'll be to renovate this home," and break it down into, break it out so I can see what your pricing, so I can, compare the pricing between the other handyman. So I mean, for the most part, it's just, putting a post up on even Facebook, your own page. Some people may know somebody, or some of your friends may actually be able to work on a mobile home. So I would go to social media and put up a page on in one of the groups and ask about any handyman that available.
No, that's well said. That's well said. And I want to ask, with the home mobile home investing, is there a need to have a real estate agent, or this is
No,
more of,
nope, no.
uh,
So you don't need a real estate agent. So the thing about mobile homes is actually you have a title, just like it's similar to a vehicle, So there's no like deed. There's a title which is housed at the DMV. So you don't do anything. You don't need a real estate agent. You don't need to be a real estate agent. You don't even have to have, you don't have to have any real estate agent involved. All you need is the title for the mobile home. So, and you go to the DMV, to transfer titles. But yeah, you don't need a real estate agent when you, unless, I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. Unless it's a mobile home that's on land and it's not in a park. If it's on land and it's attached to the land, then that's considered a real estate property, and it's not considered that's not, you don't have a title to that. There'll be actually a deed to that one. So that will require a real estate agent. But anything in a mobile home park, it will not.
wow, 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 wow. Take out the middleman. Wow, that's good. So I guess, as for you as an investor, what do you look for before you go in and you buy, put an offer in for a deal? What are some things you look at before putting a final price or offer?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things, and I think I started to allude to it. But I'll walk around a mobile home. I'll check to see if there's any weak spots in the floors, especially around in the bathroom where it tend to be leaks, between water flowing. So make sure there's no weak spots. Make sure that there's no issues with the roof. Make sure there's actually a title available for the mobile home. Um, Make sure the year, if the mobile home needs to be moved, have to make sure there's a certain year. So anything after 76, if it's younger than 76, you cannot move it. That's the regulations that has been set for. It's too old for it to be moved. So that's another thing that you have to look for. But I mean, and then just common issues in terms of like what needs to be repaired. Is there a HVAC system installed? Does that need to be repaired? So just typically, things that maybe, may cause problems later on down the line, or may not be an easy fix.
Okay. So being that said, that leads me to like, I'm sure there's certain things you stay away from because of the cost that may call into your profit. So what are some of the things that you just like, some people just not to waste time because of it's not worth it?
Yeah. So that's similar to, if it's a mobile home that's just too old, and it needs a lot of work, then I would stay away from it. There's like a lot of damage, and the floors are bad, because that all of that stuff, the cost adds up, especially with the way this lumber pricing is. So, like, it make you run. So definitely, if something is just too old, and then another thing is, and typically when you first, start out mobile home investing, they tell you you don't want to move your first home. But
Yeah.
well, um, I was hard headed. So I was definitely hard headed, and I was like anxious. And no, I'm gonna get it. And mind you, my mentor was like, I don't think so. I'm not really feeling it. And I'm like, no. I'm like, man, you hating on me. I was hard headed. I was hard headed. When I tell you, that was the worst decision I have ever made in terms of mobile home investing. I should not have bought it. I mean, it ended up okay in the long run, but that process, oh man, it was rough. There was days where I just teared up because like everything was just going wrong. I was so grateful when I sold that home. But
Wow.
definitely, you definitely don't want to move a mobile home if you don't have to. Moving a mobile home just comes with costs off the bat. You could spend about $3,000 just to move it. Okay.
Wow.
And then just trying to get a mover lined up, it's weeks. Like, it's not like next week, it's like weeks to months before they're available, because there aren't that many mobile home movers. So you have to wait, wait for their schedule to clear. And then once you move it, you got to pay to have the water connected. You got to have to pay the electricity connected. Like, this is like $2,000, $3,000. So all of that adds up before you even start renovating an actual mobile home. So my thing is, you definitely try to stay away from moving a mobile home as much as possible. I mean, when you get further into it, you'll find out there's some mobile home parks that they'll pay for the move, which mine did. So it wasn't as bad. It didn't hit my pocket that much. But just starting out, you really don't want to get a mobile home that has to be moved unless you're wholesaling it. And, that cost is not going to be on you. It's going to be on whoever you sell it to. But if you're actually going to fix and flip it, I will stay away from one that needs to be moved.
Wow. Wow. Okay. 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 So I guess my next question, I definitely want to talk about location because you have spoken about mobile parks. So how important is location, especially as you a person that owns a property and you're renting it out to people? How important is location? Making sure the location is safe, is in a good and accessible area.
Um, Honestly, I don't really pay that much attention to location, honestly, because at the end of the day, people need housing, so I'm not really picky. I'm not going to say, oh well, I'm not going to buy that home because it's in that location. No, because people are going to move in. As you mentioned, there's a shortage on mobile home. I mean, there's a shortage on housing. So regardless of the situation, someone's going to be interested. Like, literally, I can post a mobile home for sale, and I will get hundreds, hundreds of messages within hours, of people that are interested. I started a group, just so that I can start transferring people that are interested in my mobile home, so I can have my own personal group. When I have a home available, I'll just put in that group and I'll allow them to get first dibs if they're interested. And when I tell you, this group has about 5,000 members, and I just started this group.
Jeez.
Like, I just started this
Wow.
group less than 6 months ago. So it
Wow.
just tells you how many people out there looking for a place to call their own. So yeah, definitely, location is not the biggest, deal breaker for me. I mean, if it's the place where it's a whole bunch of drug dealers and all that stuff, that may be a little iffy. If I do get it, I'll just be mindful of who I'll sell it to. I'll make sure that I don't sell it to someone that has kids, or maybe a man that is really home. He's always working or whatever case have you, so he won't have an issue with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I typically so far haven't really had any issues with the locations of my mobile homes so far.
That's well said. That's well said. And I want to talk about the next thing I want to talk about is, you mentioned like just a few minutes ago in regards to like the two different ways you can go about mobile home investing, whether it's like, the home, you buy it, you rent it out, or you wholesale it. So how do you go about as an investor deciding whether you're gonna wholesale a mobile house or you're gonna keep this because it can increase in value, you can gain some equity. So how do you go about doing things like that?
Good question. So I typically my I typically do fix and flip. And I mean, eventually I'll get into wholesaling. But I like to buy and hold because I'm looking long term. Wholesaling is short term. You immediately get your profit for it versus fix and flip. With fix and flip, I'll do rent to own. So which means that I'm not the actual I'm not a landlord, because I don't want nobody calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning to talk about their toilet is not flushing. So, so I sell them the mobile home, but I'm financing it. So it's owner finance, where I'll have them give me a down payment and then they'll pay me monthly for 5 years.
Wow.
So if I have several mobile homes, that means I'm getting a constant check from all of these mobile homes for the next 5 years. As I continue to add on to my portfolio, that's another 5 years. So rent to own, the method I use, I'm thinking about long term. So if I ever wanted to leave my job, okay, well, I know I got checks coming in for all of these mobile homes, so I'll be okay. Um, and not that anything is wrong with wholesaling. Wholesaling is immediate. Like, you get in, you sell it, and then you get your one-time check or your cash or whatever, and that's it. You move on to the next. But I like to build up my portfolio. I like to keep it within my means, where I'm actually getting you know a monthly residual income coming in versus just selling it right away.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. So that leads to my next question based on what you said, being the fact that owners finance it, how do you structure the contract to make sure that, these people you're selling to are going to pay you on a monthly basis so you don't have any issue year one, year two, where they can't pay, and if they do, and if there is an issue, how can you go about handling that situation?
I mean, yes, essentially it's similar to, purchasing a home. There's a contract in place that says, I'm financing in this home for you. This is the down payment that you need to make, and your monthly payments is such and such for the next 5 years. If you fail to miss a payment, then I have the right to request the home back and begin the eviction process. Fortunately, I have not had that issue, and I pray that I don't. Um, but it is a matter of going to court and going through eviction process and getting your home back. But like I said, I haven't had that issue so far, and I prayed that I that I don't. I did have one tenant that couldn't pay 1 month. She was actually the same one that the daughter came up to me. Um, and she was able to apply for assisted living, where they were going to give her some money for her rent. So she reached out to me and said, "Hey, Kimmy, this is the situation. I can't pay this month rent. Please don't put me out." Like, I would never, I'm not no cold-hearted person. I'm not going to put you out and your children because you don't pay 1 month's rent. I'm not living off this money. Like, it's fine. Worry about what you got going on, and then when you get it, you get it. So I mean, she gave me a couple of months in advance the next time she got the check. So I mean, I work with people, you know I'm not going to put somebody out the house if they can't make the rent 1 month. I'm very lenient, but I'm not going to allow people to take advantage of me either. But yeah, so it'll be the same process. You go to court and go through the eviction process.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. And how do you go about managing your different mobile home house and
In terms of, when you say manage it, in what sense?
in a sense of like, you're keeping up to date, whether something do break, is that liability is on you or is that on the
No,
tenant?
It's not. It's not because that's why they are. So once I sell it to them, they become the homeowners. So anything that happens with the home is on them. So
Mm,
I don't go in to fix no toilets or any issues. When I sell it as is, and I get it up to par. Where everything is working. If something happens while they're there, they're responsible for it because they are now the homeowners. They don't get the title of the home until sorry, I don't know what that was. They don't get the title of the home until they actually pay it off. But prior to that, yeah, I don't fix anything. Mm-mm.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That is making definitely making more sense now. Making more sense. I'm getting a better understanding of this process. I'm sure as you've been doing this mobile home for the past 2 years, you have had some challenges that you had to overcome. And so, what were some challenges you had to overcome as an investor in the mobile house industry?
Some challenges have been, just finding a park. So that's another thing with mobile home investing. You know, all parks are not mobile home investor friendly, where they won't allow you to purchase a home in their park and renovate it and sell it out. So that the challenging part can be finding an actual park where they allow you to come in and renovate and then rent it out. I found myself running into that. I remember when I first started, my mentor was like, just call these parks. And I was like discouraged because I just kept getting no, no. And she's like, listen, you're gonna get like 50 no's, but keep calling until you get your first yes. And eventually I got my first yes and then my second yes. So the challenge initially is just trying to find a park that will allow you to come in and purchase a home there and actually, do your investing there.
Oh, okay. That's well said. And that's well said. I guess I just have this question. I know with standard um, real estate properties, and when you're doing construction or you're doing rehab, like you do have to pull like permits. Is there any need of that if you do it pulling permits of that sort?
No, so you typically don't need to pull a permit for mobile home investing unless you're in like a certain. So I'm in North Carolina. So there's certain counties have certain rules and regulations. So one of my mobile home parks that I was in, I needed to pull up. Well, because the mobile home was moved, there needs to be a licensed electrician that does the work to connect the mobile home. So a license is needed for that. A license is going to be needed for the people that's connecting the water. But in terms of me personally, I don't need they'll have to pull a permit to do the work in the sense of the electricity as well as the plumbing.
That's well said. That is definitely well said. And just going back to the question, you having to get 50 no's. How did your fate, encourage you? Your faith in God encourage you through the process of you getting no and you not knowing whether this probably going to work out or not going to
Day I'm
out for
doing it.
you.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm doing this for his glory. My desire is to serve him. My goal was to be able to double my tides when doing this. So I'm like, God, I'm doing this for you. I want to double my tides. And it's funny because I was listening to another coach and I realized that my thought process was too small.
Mm,
My goal was too small because he's like, listen, your goal needs to be your tithe is going to be $100,000. And I'm like, listen, that's a goal that I can definitely add onto my plate. $100,000 tithe, absolutely. So yeah, so that's what encourages me. Like I know that I'm a tither, my business tithe. So that is what drives me because I know that I'm trying to make a difference. There's so many things that I want to be able to do. I want to be able to just go and buy a building for my church. Just get a building. So that's something that encourages me because I know my desire. Like I said, I do missionary work. So I want to be able to travel. So I'm doing this now so that I can get to where I really want to be.
wow. I definitely commend you on that. Tied in $100,000. That is definitely possible. It
Yeah.
definitely is possible. Um, And being that said, I definitely want to talk about mindset. Kind of just talking to you and I get the sense that you have a very strong mindset, discipline. Um, no matter what's going to happen, you're going to keep on going. You have this goal that you're trying to achieve. So, how important is it for people, if they want to get into this journey, you start this journey as investors in the mobile home, to have a strong mindset?
Yeah, it's definitely very important. Because there's gonna be some days where you're discouraged. There's gonna be 50 no's, like I mentioned before. So you gotta have the mindset of, okay, regardless of what happens, I'm gonna continue to go. I'm gonna keep going. I'm not gonna give up. Yeah, and so there's times where you gotta encourage yourself. Trust me, there was times where my mentor had to encourage me. I'm like, listen, I'm over this. I'm not like so that you have those moments, but you got to pick up and you're like, listen, I started this, I'm going to finish it. And when you understand the benefits of it, you realize, okay, it's bigger than me. Let me get myself together. I had a bad week, but next week is going to be greater. Next week is going to be better. So yeah, having a positive mindset and really tapping into that is very important.
That's what I'm saying. And what are some resources that you use besides your mentors? Is there any books you have read, that help, speed up the process in mobile home investing?
There are no books that I actually read in terms of mobile home method. Like I mean, I I think I've paid for maybe like four different mobile home investing courses. Like I paid for a couple of mentors, and a couple of different training sessions because I just felt like I didn't get what I needed with the one prior, or one was good for one area, and I'm like, I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more understanding. So I definitely feel like if they want to get into it, make sure that they invest in getting with someone, a mentor, or a class to really help them understand, because you don't want to get into it and get yourself in trouble, or do something that you're not supposed to be doing. So you definitely want to be you want to have guidance from someone. So definitely seek out training or programs that are mentorships that are available.
Well said. That's well said. And where do you see the future of mobile homes in like the next 5 to 10 years?
So the few I mean, I think they're not going anywhere, honestly. So it's just going to be, so the thing with mobile homes is that they're not, everyone doesn't like them. They're frowned upon because, one, some parks aren't really kept well. So they call them the slum or whatever case have you, because of the appearance of it. Um, and then the city doesn't, like them. Why? Because they're not really getting anything from it. Like they're not getting much taxes from it. Taxes on mobile homes are very, very cheap versus a traditional home where they're getting thousands of dollars on taxes. So, they're not really favored by the city. So you won't really see many mobile home parks being developed. You'll see some being bought out and then they'll renovate it, but rarely are they approving new mobile home parks to be installed. So I don't see it going to a point where you'll see more. I mean, there's thousands of mobile home parks, believe it or not. In fact, just in North Carolina alone, there's 5,000 mobile home parks just in North
Wow.
Carolina. So there are a lot out there. You may not see it every day, or you may not notice it. It wasn't until I actually started getting into mobile home investing that actually started to recognize, like, oh man, that's mobile home. That's mobile home. Before, they just looked like regular homes to me. I never really paid attention. So if it wasn't actually in a park, I wouldn't have known. But yeah, essentially, um, I don't see them developing many more. They may approve some here and there, but I think what's here is it's all that we're gonna have if they don't start getting rid of some and putting up apartment buildings. I see that may happen. But I think there's like a limit on that can be done, just because affordable housing is needed. So there may be some, they may not approve, doing such things like that.
That's well said. Well said. And where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years as an entrepreneur?
So as an entrepreneur, next 5 to 10 years, I see myself owning an actual mobile home park. That is my long-term goal, is to um, I can still do the mobile home investing, but I want to actually own the park where people are paying me lot rent to have their mobile homes on my land. So essentially that is my goal, is to own a mobile home park, and then as well as have some multi-unit developments, some multi-unit properties that I look forward to getting within the next few years.
That's well said. That's well said. And you mentioned you have a program or a mastermind. Can you talk more a little bit about it for those who may
Yeah,
be interested?
yeah, absolutely. I actually just put some information about a masterclass that I'm doing, and it came from a challenge that from a group that I'm in with one of the coaches, where he challenged us to create a $20 product, and it can't be any more, it can't be any less, and we have 30 days to sell it. And so I was wondering, I'm like, what can I do? And initially I was like, I just brushed it off. I'm I'm not doing it. But then, I felt led. I mean, Holy Spirit was just dealing with me. And I'm just like, oh man. Because I always had a passion to help people with their finances. Um, I'm that friend that people would typically come to, hey Kemi, what you think about this? I mean, for years I would help my friends with their budget or their spending. And it's just something I always desired to do. And it just sat there. I never really did anything with it until now. So that brought me to the masterclass where I'm actually gonna talk about my journey. At 25, I purchased my first home, that was a brand new home that I'm in now. And 10 and a half, 11 years later, I was debt free, completely paid off the entire home. I paid off two cars. I have 2 degrees, one in electrical engineering, one in energy management. Um, all of those bills are paid. So in 11 and a half years, I became 100% debt free, no debt at all. And people always wonder, well, Kim, how did you do it? How are you doing it? How help me? So that's what this masterclass is. It's really, going through my journey and really telling people, encouraging people, just giving people information on financial freedom. What do they need to do? Are they budgeting? Are you saving money? Where's your money going? And then I also get into the different investments that I'm doing. So I'll talk about mobile home investing. So I have about 4 businesses. I own ATMs. So I'll talk about, getting into ATM business. Most people don't know that you can actually own an ATM. Everyone thinks that the bank owns all of them, and they don't. They're regular people like me and you that own them. So I'll talk about that. I also talk about, how I got into the vending business. Excuse me. I own 14 vending machines. So I'll
Wow.
talk about that process. I purchased 5 mobile homes. I still own 4. So I'll talk about the process of me getting that. I also own a customization business where I customize t-shirts or cups and things like that. So I'll talk about that as well. There's some other things that I'm doing. I have other investment properties. I invest with other people. So really just talking about the possibilities that are out there, and one, help people with their finances, and two, just help people with coming up with ideas for different streams of income. They say you're supposed to have 7 streams of income. I didn't mention that I do mystery shopping, which is like a secret shopper. So I'll talk about that as well. That's another stream of income. So I'll pretty much talk about, helping people with their finances, as well as other streams of income people can look into.
Wow, 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 wow. That is definitely a great price for all that.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not going to stay $20 forever. Okay. That price will go up. Okay. Once I finish selling, meet my target, that price will go up. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. That's a great price.
Absolutely. And I didn't want to
Wow.
give people excuses, oh, your course is too expensive, this and that. It's $20. Skip going to Starbucks for 3 days. Okay, you'll have that $20. So it's doable. I didn't want people to make any excuse on, really not participating and really tapping in and getting information that they need.
Wow, 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 wow. That's definitely well said. I definitely want to thank you, Miss Kemi, for your time. This was definitely a fun podcast. I definitely want to ask you, do you have any word of wisdom you would share to a young lady, who wants to be in the same position as you, next 10, 11 years? What would you say to that young lady to encourage that person?
Sure. I'll just tell her that, anything is possible, as long as she puts her mind to it. Don't ever let anybody discourage you. If you have a dream, it may, whatever your dream is, don't allow people to discourage you. As long as it's in your heart, you have the passion for it, you can do it. Anything is possible. There may be some roadblocks, there may be some obstacles, there may be some challenges, but know that if you have that desire, you can push forward and you can achieve anything you want to do. And know that God is there with you. So trust God, keep Him in the forefront of it, and know that He's going to guide you and He's going to lead you.
Well said. Thank you very much. For those who are listening, like always, I hope you guys do take advantage of this opportunity, take advantage of this podcast. Just don't see it as another podcast, another guest on a podcast. Actually take information and use it, apply, and that's when wisdom is really happening. And if you guys don't know, I have a free study guide on my website, wealthinchristbrand.com, where you can learn how to invest in the stock market completely for free. Show you all the things in terms of investing into ETFs, how to look at companies and all that. You can get that at my website. And I hope to see you guys next week and have a great rest of the day, guys. And thank you again, Ms. Kemi.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.